As you all can see on this stage, we are pretty much set for some fruitful discussion. It's time for a panel discussion on demands of occupants in warehousing and industrial storage. Well, industrial real estate is about identifying the right land, and who better than any realtor who deals with land at a local level would know. We, in the panel discussion, would speak on constantly updating specifications that tenants are demanding and how to make this viable for our developers. Leading this dynamic conversation, our panel discussion, is our very own Conclave ambassador, co-chairman, none other than Mr. Amit Damodar Chugh. Everybody, come on. A round of applause. Can we please have Mr. Amit on the stage? Mr. Amit will be moderating the panel discussion. Right, I feel we can do a little better with the applause. Yeah, okay. Please grab a seat. Our first panelist is someone with over 27 years of experience in industrial real estate, private equity, and investment banking. He's a powerhouse of knowledge, everybody. Prior to his current role, he excelled as a COO at All Cargo Logistics and Industrial Parks and has also made a significant contribution at JM Financial and the Macquarie Group. He holds an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and BE in Mechanical Engineering from BIT Mesra Ranchi. He's not only a professional, but also a member of the Board of Governors of IIM Trinchi and a distinguished member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. Everybody, let's welcome the genius behind Horizon Industrial Parks, Mr. R.K. Narayan. Come on, you all can do a little better. That's Mr. R.K. Narayan for you as a first panelist. Now it's time for me to introduce our second panelist, who is a trailblazer in the world of real estate with 15 years of experience at Morgan Stanley Real Estate, investing in New York and Mumbai, including as managing director. He's now the head of India at Prologis. Please welcome Mr. Vineet Sekhsaria. Everybody, come on, can I hear you all for Mr. Vineet? Backside, come on. Thank you. And last but not the least, this brings me to our third panelist. Our third panelist is a true leader in the logistics industry. He's the visionary behind the success of V-Trans India Limited, steering the company's network and infrastructure across India and the SAARC region. But wait, there's more to him than meet the eye. He's not just a leader, he's a master of multitasking, from managing e-commerce and franchisee operations to overseeing legal affairs. He's the Swiss Army knife of V-Trans, everybody, with over 18 years of experience. His leadership at V-Express earned the company the esteemed title for Best Logistics Service Provider India Award at the Cargo Awards, everybody. Deserves applaud, I feel. Let's welcome the man behind the magic of V-Trans India, the Executive Director of V-Trans India, Mr. Vishal Shah, for you. Over to our panelists. Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. Hi. So with us, we have R.K. Narayan, who's from Horizon Industrial Parks and from Blackstone, which is one of the world's largest funds. They also own the largest portfolio right now in India of industrial real estate. We also have Vineet Sekhsaria, who was heading Morgan Stanley for a very, very long time. He's a very close friend. And now he's with Prologis, which is the world's largest REIT in industrial real estate as well. And we have, Vishal ji, who's from V-Trans. Oh, that's a company that's very, very large. They also have V-Express and a host of other companies. So it's a very dignified panel here, very, very interesting. And I would always start with a friend whom I know since very, very long, Vineet. Hi, Vineet. So let us start with Prologis. If you can tell us something about Prologis so that everybody can relate to Prologis, and we'll move on from there.
Hi. First of all, thank you, Amit, and everybody, for having me here. It's really an honor and I appreciate the opportunity. So, Prologis, for people who may not know, is essentially one of the largest real estate companies in the world. They are a US-based company, NYSE-listed REIT. It's the largest REIT in the world with a market cap of 120 billion. They're primarily in one business, which is building and owning modern logistics facilities or warehouses. They own and operate approximately 1.2 billion square feet of warehousing space globally. They have not come to India so far. This is the first time we are sort of coming in and have set up operations here. The plan in India is to basically grow the business, and we're here for the long term. To give you a sense, approximately 3% of the world's GDP moves through Prologis warehouses at one point or another annually. So look, they're huge globally. The idea is to be in India and be here long term. They see definitely India as an opportunity to come and build modern logistics facilities. They have over 6,000 customers globally, and the idea is to bring a lot of new customers to India, hopefully over time as well. As simple as that, right? We are set up in Mumbai now. We have a team in place, and we are here to buy land, and we're here to build warehouses.
Thank you. Moving on to Mr. R.K. Narayan. Sir, if you can just introduce us to Blackstone and Horizon, and what have you been doing in India, and what's your vision right now?
Yeah. So I'll talk less about Blackstone and maybe more about Horizon. But just quickly on Blackstone, Blackstone Real Estate is a global real estate investment and asset manager, having the biggest portfolio, one of the biggest portfolio across the globe in multiple real estate classes. In India also, they are the largest investor across office, retail, warehousing, and now getting into data center as well. You would know some of the already listed platforms such as Embassy Office Park, which was a Blackstone joint venture, and an Embassy joint venture, and also Nexus Retail, which also went public last year under the Nexus Select name. Horizon is the Blackstone's 100% owned platform for warehousing, logistics and industrial real estate. And then there is Lumina, which is for the data center. So Horizon came into being as a platform for Blackstone in January of 2022. And Blackstone entered into the space by a bunch of acquisition of portfolio of assets of Embassy Industrial Park as well as from All Cargo, plus some other acquisitions thereafter. So today, as we speak, we are present in 9 cities. We have about 19 parks, and with a total portfolio of about 28 million square feet. Let me just correct that. Indospace is the largest, they're 40 plus. But if you look at the other joint venture that Blackstone has with the Hirandani Group, called as Greenbase, then they are about 42 billion square feet. So for Horizon, it's about 28 million square feet, and as I said, 19 parks, of which 13 million square feet is operating asset.
Right. Thank you. Vishal bhai, so if you could tell us about VTrans and all your other companies and what do you do that would.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, whatever. Hi. Thanks, Amit, for having me over here. So VTrans, our earlier name was Vijay Transport. The company is incorporated in 1958. This is a family-run but professionally managed organization. I am the third generation into the business. Initial years, we operated primarily in the Gujarat-Maharashtra corridor. About 2000 is when we expanded towards south, north, and then east of India. Our interests in business include typical hard freight transport, which is your full truck as well as go-down to go-down movements. We have V Express, the second division, wherein we do door-to-door transportation. We have a third division wherein we do warehousing in the name of V Lodges. And within V Express, we also have a last mile delivery, the orders that you place on Flipkarts and Amazons, and you have the bikers who come to do the delivery, that division which is taken care of. We have our presence pan-India across all the states, about 700 plus network of branches, and operating very strongly in pan-India. We also have a little bit of air operations also in terms of air freight transportation. And with the pivotal growth that we are seeing in this space since the last couple of years, I think the company as well as the industry is looking for an upward trajectory only. Thanks.
Thank you. Vineet, coming back to you. So Prologis is looking to grow pan-India, or are you looking at only the tier 1 cities? What kind of deals are you actually looking at, and at what locations?
Sure. So, I mean, our focus currently is on the tier 1 cities, the top 7-8 cities in India. So Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, Hyderabad, Calcutta. We'll obviously look at other cities down the road. And in these cities, we are currently looking for land parcels. I would say within a 50 to 60 kilometer radius of the city center. The parcels could be in the range of 20 acres to 100 acres, frankly. And, and effectively, look, we are a buyer of these lands. And we are very happy to structure a lot of these deals in a way that works for all the parties. So if it cannot be an outright sale, which is always a preference, it could be a joint development, it could be a joint venture. If the landowner wants to keep a couple of buildings and own them forever, we can find a way to structure that. The short answer is that if you come to us with a good land, we will have the right solution and the capital for it, right? So, I mean, I think that's, I think, look, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of players here who are interested in buying land. I just want to say we'll probably try to be very fair and do something that's right for everybody. But yeah, I mean, I think we are very keen and very interested in buying large lands across these cities. So please reach out to us. You can find me, you can find Amit. But yes.
Thank you. So in terms of structuring, you are okay with outright, any kind of a joint venture, forward purchase, all those structures are okay with you?
Yeah, I mean, all of those structures are okay, right? I mean, ultimately, it's got to be something that works for us, works for the other party. So I think we're very open to figuring out all of that. I mean, look, frankly speaking, I mean, everybody knows land has become very, very difficult in India. And one has to be really creative to be able to ultimately, execute on transactions. We're very open to doing that. So.
Right. So what you're telling all the realtors of NAR India is that you are looking at land. There's a huge opportunity for growth, and you're open to all the top cities in India to start with, and then maybe look at tier 2, tier 3 later. Once you start with tier 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, we've just come in last year. Prologis is the largest in the business globally, and we want to run a long-term profitable business in India. Simple as that, right? So there is no limitation of capital. There's no limitation on ability to take risk in the right places. So please reach out to me. You can send an email to india@prologis.com with any land opportunities that you may have. Shameless plug there. But no, in all fairness, right? I mean, I think we're here. It's probably sort of the first event we are speaking at, just because the audience is the right audience for us, right? I mean, realtors is really the backbone of how we buy land all over the world. So very happy to be here.
Sure. RK, so back to you. So what kind of deals are you looking? Are you open to the similar kind of land purchase? Are you okay with a JV or JD, with a forward purchase, or you also have other models?
Some bit of it, yes, it's common. To be honest, actually, the opportunities and the quality opportunities are fewer. And therefore, you sometimes could be open to structures. But having said that, we are doing everything. We do portfolio acquisitions, meaning already operating assets, large scale, if they are available, of good quality. then that's how we have grown or reached to this stage. Also land acquisition, so preference would be that we, in the pecking order, that we own the land and we do our own development, leasing and operations. We have done some joint ventures, but typically joint ventures would only be in certain specific cases. So it's not really a norm. So I would say that a single shot land purchase as opposed to an aggregation, which is where we take help of the local partners. You know them well, right? And corporate land acquisitions and maybe a brownfield, maybe somewhere where there's already a development which has happened but has further expansion possibility. What is important for us is that the project or the portfolio must be of scale. As opposed to a single asset, we would like to look at multiple, maybe in the same city or maybe in the same region, is what we look at. Structure-wise, I think it's all, I think it's simple. I mean, again, the capital is not a problem. And for us to raise debt finance also is typically not an issue. But yes, the quality of the asset is important.
So we also have another discussion post-lunch where we'll be explaining all these structures that we've been talking about, like what's a DM and what's a forward purchase and what's a JV and a JD. So we'll move on to the structuring later. So land is clearly the biggest opportunity for all of us, and there's no one better than a local broker who can do it at his city level. All of us know that. So that's the first takeaway now. From no land, let's move on to leasing. So we have a lot of occupants from the leasing side who take up warehousing space. But with us, we have Vishalji, who's from the transportation side. So I would like you to add, how are the warehouses that you look or you take from a transportation perspective? How are they very different from the general warehouses?
Before that, Amit, let me just add that currently we are already occupying about 1.2 million square feet of space, which is purely warehousing, and almost an equivalent and a little more space from a transportation perspective also. It's important to differentiate between a requirement for a warehouse vis-a-vis a requirement for transportation, and many a times I think whenever a larger space is spoken about, it always clicks that this is a warehousing kind of a requirement, wherein the movement of vehicles is much lesser, and thereby the amenities that are required in the nearby space is also limited. From a transportation perspective, it's like a huge turnover of vehicles which keep coming in and out of various sizes, and that's why it's important that in whatever facility you are having this kind of storage needs to consider the parking requirements that is going to be there for the vehicles that arrive, and other arrangements, especially from your labor, your staff who's going to be also staying in the facility which is there. So running base in terms of faster movement of these vehicles, because the turnaround time is to be reduced in terms of operating these vehicles. So I think from a warehousing perspective, industrial parks generally tend to become too compact, which doesn't work in favor of transport requirements. Transport requires much huger open space. The operations is typically 24/7, and we cannot be restricted by times that post 7 or 8 p.m. the facility cannot function. So I think these are key pointers which to be taken in mind.
Right, sir. So typically what you're saying is that you require a lot more amenities, a lot more open space, and it's typically different from a general warehouse. So a transport warehouse could be a little more expensive to build because there's more land requirement and all of that. So the question goes back to Mr. RK. With changing demands of tenants and with the costs going up, how are you able to work on your viabilities? Tenants are always looking for the lowest rent, and they also have more demands. So how do you address this constantly?
Well, let me tell you that the biggest cost increase has been of the land, right? Then construction cost, yes, but not to the extent that the land prices change. Whereas the corresponding increase or change in the rentals, that's not happened. It's happening, it's growing, but still, so there's a mismatch. As a result of which, the yields that we work at has got lowered. But still, from a large developer perspective, overall portfolio perspective, I think it's still fine. Um, Sorry, your question was about the specifications?
Yeah, so how does the ROI work out when your costs increase?
No, so ROI, being a grade A, top quality developer, where you have to try and get those extra rentals vis-a-vis the competition, is through the services. One, the entire engagement during the onboarding process, of the tenant. The solutions specific solutions that we provide, understanding their specific requirements. And, we are very quick in turning around and reverting to the client because we got a full-fledged design platform, construction and everything. We have the entire team. We have a good understanding of the leasing and the tenant's mindset through our experienced leasing people. So as a result, I think even if on the face of it, at the first instant, the occupiers might be looking at more from a rental competitiveness perspective, but later on as they engage, and see what product we are going to give, what solutions are we offering, the turnaround time, etc. I think they come around of paying you those extra rentals that you desire. So I think it's okay, particularly more so in the manufacturing side. Yes. These days we are seeing a good proportion from the engineering side, from the auto side. I think there it's more about the product as opposed to the pricing. So there, and since we have a good mix of it, of the normal warehousing as well as on the manufacturing side, I think we are doing good on that front.
Sure. Thank you. Vineet, I also have another question from you. So with your prior experience and expertise and now with Prologis, so how are your offerings going to be different from what the market has to offer right now?
Sure. So, I mean, if we speak about specifications, I think this is one area where we've taken a step back and really looked at sort of all of our learnings from everything that we've built around the world and see how can we sort of improve things a little bit in India, right? So let me start with a principal point. So people, always say that logistics as a percent of GDP is very high in India and it's much lower in a lot of other countries and we've got to bring this cost down. So let's look at why it's high in India, right? One of the main reasons is actually a lot of the providers don't use smaller trucks. They use the 20-footers or 30-footers or maximum 40-footer trucks. The reason they have to do that is because our roads have not been able to take the bigger trucks. We've not had the infrastructure. But finally, the country is building infrastructure. They're building major highways at a phenomenal pace, right? And I think what we will see is that we will see a lot of these companies now begin to use larger trucks, and that provides a lot more efficiency for them and brings their cost down, right? Now, what does that mean for a warehouse project? That means you've got to build a project that can accommodate larger trucks. It can accommodate larger turning radiuses. It can accommodate that parking. And that's what we'll be building at the end of the day, right? I mean, if you look at the specifications in this business, especially in India, the specs have actually changed quite a bit every 5 or 6 years. And I think the risk with, with this is that if you don't get it right, your product can sort of become a little bit redundant in 5 or 6 years, right? And I think that's the one area that I think we really need to focus on because you're ultimately building a product for 25, 30 years, right? And somebody like Prologis would basically, own it, for a long, long period of time. So I think that's one area that we are really focusing on, and I think when we build a product, I think you'll see that we'll have a lot of this incorporated.
Sure, thank you. We have addressed what the demand is for land, but let's also understand what's the opportunity here in leasing. So, Vishalji, if you could just tell us from your company perspective, how much of space you've already occupied, what's your growth per year, and there are how many companies like you in the market? So what's the opportunity for realtors to get into this business and actually lease to people like you?
In the last 3-4 years, it's pretty evident the way the sector has grown. Not just us, but people into the transportation as well as warehousing. Their requirements have gone just skyrocketed kind of a thing. And along with that, I think we have seen how the prices have also kind of moved what was there 4 years back. And this is not, I'm not talking about one particular territory, but this is pan-India that we are seeing prices going up. Typically for larger companies, they tend to connect with the larger agencies wherein you talk about a bigger requirement kind of a thing. unfortunately, the opportunity to click with smaller or medium type of players gets missed, whereas those guys are actually much better known, familiar with the territories, and they are able to broker deals much better. So I think understanding about the requirement, it's also important, I think, from your association perspective, if there is something which can be done in terms of connecting with the sets of people, because it's not that we as larger companies would want to necessarily deal with the larger guys. Sometimes it is out of no choice left that we are not able to connect with the smaller guys. From the realtors, the medium realtors perspective, I think it is very important that the transaction that you all do is not looked as a standalone transaction. Because then the opportunity in terms of looking for more opportunities with the same company sort of diminishes. You might definitely have much more better relation with the sellers because you are aware about what properties they have. But from the buyers, I think putting that one transaction aside, if you all can understand that how you all can work together continuously in terms of helping the buyer look for more and more branches. And we talk about larger spaces. There is also a requirement which comes across for 2,000, 5,000 square feet of space in tier 2, tier 3 kind of cities, and which takes a longer time to close with regards to the larger guys. I think that's where you guys can come and play a much larger role. It's evident from the fact that, the likes of FMCG companies, their penetration right now is going on in tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. They're looking to add up space. You have more and more people buying products online. The larger growth that is coming is actually from these sectors. To a large extent, your metros, your tier 1 cities, they have not exactly reached a saturation point, but there is only so much that can be done. So you guys sitting in the local territories are in a much better position to fulfill these requirements. But I think it's important to sort of try and partner with the companies rather than looking, okay, what transaction done, what is the profit or ROI that I'm seeking to. I think it's important to look from a long-term growth perspective. Everyone over here is talking about high growth. You talk about any industry. And the more you have output from the manufacturing sector, the more growth and more transportation opportunities and warehousing opportunities are going to prop up. And I think we are going to be enjoying this phase for at least another decade and a half, if not more. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So these takeaways are absolutely massive. The opportunity is huge. Just like how Vishal ji said, the percolation has gone down to every small city and town. It's just the ease of doing business, like sharing a pan-India requirement with one company that's present across India makes it easier for you to deal with them. It's the reach going down to the local brokers that's a challenge for you. But you also say that local brokers can deal with it much more effectively because they share very good relationship and rapport with the owners because they're locals from the place. So what I understand that you are expecting from NAR India is that we need to network better and present
Absolutely.
ourselves as a united force to deal with your pan-India requirements together. Rather than talking to 10 people, you would prefer talking to one single forum. That's precisely what you're saying. So in my opening remarks, I had also shared that there are 40 industrial real estate brokers in India who are the top 40.
Sure.
And collectively, you'll be surprised to know that we have leased 4 crore square feet. That's an average of 1 million per person in the last 1 year.
Very nice.
So the opportunity is absolutely huge. We just need to organize it a little better. Moving on to Mr. RK, while we understand the opportunity in land and leasing, could you also throw light on what is the fees that you pay in terms of a land transaction and a fees for a BTS or for a standard lease?
On the land transaction, like I said, it's typically a portfolio deal. So a lot of things that comes to us is more as a investment banking transaction as opposed to a single asset transaction. But what I can say is that its fees is not the deterrent. I think what we need is a good quality. If it's a property or asset, we need a good quality property where the broker, if the broker is involved, has understood that what is required. So the homework has been done by the broker, so therefore the speed of response will be faster. I mean, in this space, you do receive n number of land transactions. and obviously you can't do justice to all of them, but if we typically like to deal with a consultant or a broker who has actually spent time and knows that, yes, a warehousing, it's from a zoning perspective, from a conversion perspective, et cetera, the city laws, in that respect, the development plan in that respect is well understood, and therefore himself is confident that, yes, that makes it easier, for us to do a quicker turnaround. Like I said, if there is a value, which comes through, the fees would be paid. Yes, the typical fees is 1%, but then again, depending on size and scale, et cetera, and more particularly, how much involved the consultant or broker is into the transaction. So that's on the asset side. On the brokerage side, I think it's pretty much a set norm, whether we are doing a build-to-suit, whether we are doing a standard speculative, et cetera, or whether we have already finished it, there's a releasing happening. It could vary between 30, 45, 60 days, and in certain special cases, it can be 3 months as well.
Great. So once again, the service quality is what is important. The fee is irrelevant. So if you get involved, there is a huge payback. And there's a case where we got a tenant from Germany, and we had got involved in designing the whole space, and we had presented to a developer in Chennai, and he was so impressed the way we presented it. He had paid us a 4-month rent as a commission. So the opportunity is absolutely huge, and I think I would like to take a lot of questions from the audience. So anybody who has any questions to any of the panelists, please stand up. You will have the mic, and please introduce yourself with your name and city, and you can point out a question to your desired panelist. Do we have? Yes. We will need the lights on the other side. We're not able to look at the audience.
Hi, everybody. My question is to the moderator. Mr. Amit, you were speaking about getting in touch with the local brokers. Here, when we get in touch with a local broker, he is quoting a certain price for a certain property, which is for a warehouse. But when I contact the expert, he says the price is too high. How do we tackle this?
Okay. So, basically, the disconnect is actually there because you haven't met the owner. So, there's a whole mismatch over here. So every time that I have gone down to looking at land, I insist on meeting the owner. And it's only when you meet the owner, you actually understand his pulse and you understand what price he would actually sell at. So when you deal in a chain of brokers, the price keeps going up. So it's very, very important to reach the owner. That's the only way you can actually get on to doing business.
But here again, the local broker is hesitant to take us to the owners. Maybe a corporate company like yours would be willing to come. But when I want to enter the warehouse business, I am denied that opportunity.
Well, I started off in 2004 just like that. So people were reluctant, take me to owners. But as time went on, people build trust on you, and then they take you to the owner, and that's when you actually end up doing deals. So there are a whole lot of land deals of very large sizes that we've done, and we've done it through local brokers. But only after meeting the owner, that's when we can go ahead and present it to buyers whom we have around us. You have to address it professionally. You have to understand everything about the land. And when they understand that you're taking so much interest, they will also give you a price that works.
My last question, Mr. Amit. Could you transfer your technology to us?
Sir, we at NAR India are always willing to share everything we know. And we are very open about it. Because NAR India is one single united body. The point over here is that we are all brokers, but none of us are competitors. We are all collaborators. That's how we all think of ourselves. So we are always willing to share our knowledge.
Hi, I'm Audrey from Goa Association Realtors. I have 3 questions. What is the size of land generally you look for? That will be number 1 question. Number 2 would be, what is the width of the road? And do you also take private lands?
Right. So I think Vineet should be answering this.
Sure. So if I got it correctly, the first question was the size of the land, right?
That's right.
Right. So if we are looking at, I want to say, outside cities, so say 50 kilometers outside a city center, then we would start with say 25 acres and go up to 100 acres. But we are also looking for lands in what we call the mid-mile category, which would be say 20 kilometers from the city center, right? And for that, we would look at lands which are ranging from, I want to say, 6 acres to 15 acres, right? And it could go up even more. And in terms of the width of the road, look, I mean, I think that's going to become a very important thing, going forward, right? I think having proximity to large major highways is going to become increasingly important, right? Because generally, globally, logistics is centered around large global highways. But to cut your answer short, I mean, I want to say the road has to be a minimum of, 40 feet wide. I know in some cases that's a challenge, and some cases we try and work with smaller road widths. We try and work with a sort of a 10-meter road, if not a 12-meter road. But I think trying to have at least a 10-meter road is important.
Perfect.
And the last question is, do you all take private lands also?
You mean
On
buying
lease?
private lands?
On lease.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think people have started doing that in India, but it's not as straightforward as it seems. I think there are some very unique situations under which we would consider private lands. The leases have to be extremely long-term, I want to say, above 50 years, and then, the payment pattern also has to be such that it can't be a fixed escalation for 50 years, right? Because if you just compound something over 50 years at whatever rate you compound, that becomes at some point a very high number. And the way to think about real estate is cyclical. Rents go up, rents come down, right? So at the end of the day, someone's ability to pay something over time is also based upon the revenue that they can generate from something, right? So it's one where it can work under certain conditions, where there's a structure in place, but it's not something that is, I want to say, very, very exciting, frankly.
So to add on to that, private lands on lease are preferably taken in the city where the land cost is very high. It's a deterrent to the ROI. So we could consider a lease if the viability works. Yeah. So we have time for just one last question, if there's any.
Hi. My name is Pratish Kumar from Coimbatore. My question is, how do you expect a worker, how do you expect the broker to approach you in terms of giving you a proposal like A, B, C, like giving a Google location first? So once your location is okay, then what kind of documentations that you will be requiring A, B, C, and C? And second thing is, if I have a proposal, how do we reach you? Do you have any representative website or anything that something that you can share with us so that that'll be easy for us to give you some proposals?
Sure. RK sir, please.
Yeah, so at least as far as we are concerned, Horizon, yes, there is a contact email ID, etc. given on our website, www.hiparks.com. And you can send in your proposals. The least that we would need is, yes, the location, typically a Google pin, as also what's the acreage we are talking about, and if you can also supplement that with a plot boundary layout. We would expect that, the land proposal that you are sending, you actually know about the land, right? And as I think Amit had referred to earlier, whether it's third and fourth channel, fifth channel, where it has come, to that extent the knowledge about the land is less. So we would expect that you are directly actually dealing with the landowners. That's most preferred.
Right.
Hi. I have a last question.
So just to say,
Sorry.
we do see everything, right? Even if 10 things are coming every day, we do see, and quickly within, I think Vineet, you tend to agree, in the mind then, whether it's a tick or a cross, and therefore our speed of response happens accordingly, then we engage our other team members to kind of contact.
Yeah, I can just add to that, right? So I think I completely agree with what RK says. I mean, I would say the best way to think about this is that put yourself in the shoes of the land buyer. What would they want to know? I mean, without a doubt, location, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the other important thing is doability, right? Because very often we get lands which is an aggregation situation. There are currently 30 owners owning an acre each, right? In those kind of situations, somebody has to come in and put up capital first and do an aggregation, right? And when those lands come to us, unless there's a strong aggregator in place with capital, it becomes very difficult for institutions like us to go into aggregation. So I want to say that, focus on lands which are high on a doability standpoint. I think pricing can always be figured out, but I think that should be the focus. And if you need to reach us, you can send an email to india@prologis.com.
Hi, I have a last question to your right. So I'm Sanjeet Narayan from Narayan's Corporate Real Estate from Mumbai. We deal in Pan-India. So my question to the industrial park operators is, what are the challenges that you face from the market when you go out to see land, search for land, or deal with brokers? What do you want us to be prepared with, which typically is not available or not done from our side? Of course, we would do everything in our power and our will to service it. But what are the two, three key points that you would want us to take care of?
Right. So I think it was a similar question. It was answered. Typically we deal with 100+ funds,
right,
and we know precisely what one. So there is a 10-point checklist, which if you very simple basic 10 points. So if you cover those 10 points, and if you understand financial viability, you need to correlate your land cost plus construction cost, and it should give you a decent ROI. It should give you a decent return. So if you know what's the rent in that market, and you know what's the land cost in the market, and if it correlates, it works. But if you don't understand the basic of financial viability, I mean, that's how a developer thinks. So you have to understand that basic and present it with those 10 points that were already mentioned, like what's the size of the land, what's the Google pin, maybe a drawing. The land should be rectangular. It should have a better shape. It should not require filling. It should be converted. It should be on a 10-meter or a 12-meter road. So these are the basic points. If you actually take care, that's when a developer gets interested and he calls you back. Right. So you have too many people looking for lands. There's a lot of funds chasing clear lands. It is a very, very large game, and if you're a little professional, you will get there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, what an insightful and engaging discussion we've had today on the demands of occupants in warehousing. Come on, a round of applause, everybody, for our panelists, and of course, Mr. Amit for moderating it so well. We would like to, before we wrap up, obviously extend a heartfelt thank you by giving a small memento as a token of appreciation for sharing valuable insights and experience with us. And for that, I would like to call Mr. Praveen Fanse. We are VP NAR India on the stage. Can we please have you on the stage, please, Mr. Praveen? Ladies and gentlemen, come on. I know the energy in the room is a little low, but come on. We can't have someone walking on the stage like that. Before you break for the lunch, I have a very important announcement for you. So do not break for the lunch before that. All right. Thank you so much. All right, before all of you head for the lunch, a quick, super important announcement that all the delegates have to proceed to lunch area 1, which is at the right-hand side of the expo. And all the speakers, invitees, sponsors, and GB members have to proceed to area 3, which is at Rio Wing in the restaurant Mango Pickle. Thank you once again to our panelists. एक बार जोरदार तालियां हो जाए यार.